Well, we have MRC board members, making sure we had our other participants.
Yeah, I've seen 3 of them, and I think Sophie's now putting them in attendees, and we'll
Okay.
them all now. So we need to give her a few minutes to move people around. I think we're ready.
Okay. Well, very good. Well, while she's working on that, I think I'll get things started and underway. Welcome, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Karen Fassell. I'm president of the MRC Board of Directors, and we welcome you to the latest in our series of town hall meetings to update you on news of the Hamden facility. And we are very pleased to be here today to be introducing the prospective buyer for the plant. I'd like to start off with some introductions first. We have with us all but I believe one of our board members. We have Dana Wrigley, Kevin Howell, Tony Smith, who's our vice president, Bob Butler, Kathleen Conlow, our newest MRC board member, Melissa Doan, welcome, and Sophie Wilson, who's our MRC board treasurer. We also have with us our technical consultant, George Aronson of Commonwealth Resource Management Corporation, our legal counsel, Jonathan Pottle of Eaton Peabody, and our esteemed executive director, Mike Carroll. So thank you all very much for participating in this. I would like our audience to know that given the number of people that we have participating in the structure of the town hall, we'll be moving, I believe, most of the board off to attendees so that you can have better view of the folks that are actively participating in this town hall on the screen. But they will be in attendance. Let's see. We have, first up, I'll be finishing up these introductions and the welcome. I'll be handing it off to Mike Carroll, who will be giving a little bit of an update on where we are and what's coming up. He will also then introduce our prospective buyer and hand it off to that company for them to give a little presentation. When that wraps up, we'll be going to a question and answer session. We will be doing it a little different than we've done in previous town halls. We'll be asking folks to raise their hand if you'd like to speak, and then we'll be giving you an opportunity to ask your question. It will be responded to, and then we'll be moving on. I would like to just let folks know that we are time limited today to 45 minutes. So we'll be making sure people's comments and questions are concise so we can get through as many of the questions as we have time to get through. We will have future opportunities to do more of this, get to know you and ask questions as we continue our way through the sale, the plant purchase process. And just a reminder too, that we've actually usurped the MRC Finance Committee meeting. It was supposed to be today at 1 o'clock right now, but given the fact that we had this exciting news we wanted to share, we're taking over that slot for this town hall. So after this meeting at 1:45, we will be moving into the regularly scheduled Finance Committee meeting of the MRC Finance Committee. So with that, I just would like to reiterate to say that we're very excited to have this opportunity today to introduce the prospective buyer of the Hamden waste processing facility. And we think you'll be excited too. We've been working with these folks now for the last several weeks, and we've been increasingly impressed with their commitment and enthusiasm and resources. And we're excited that we're able to share this news with you today. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Mike, for your update.
Thank you, Karen. And I'm just going to wait because Sophie has a PowerPoint I believe she's going to try to put up.
Mike, my system's not cooperating, but do you have it?
Well, I just had, it's just one tile that says what I'm going to be talking about. There's no picture or anything, so I can continue and then
And I'll keep working on it.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I only had the only thing on the MRC's part on the PowerPoint was basically just the topics that we're going to be talking about, which I'm going to go over right now. So I'll just emphasize on the bullets. Okay, so I'm going to get started. Thank you, Karen, and I also want to thank all the attendees and the panelists for taking the time to be here. MRC is providing updates to its members regularly during the coastal facility sale process. In some cases, we could only share limited information due to confidentiality agreements and being in the midst of negotiations with potential buyers. Members have been great with all of this, and once again, I want to thank them all for their patience. Although it's unfortunate, this process has proven 115 voices are definitely stronger than one, and I feel this has been proven a significant asset during the negotiation process. So let's begin. I will start with generally high-level recap. In late August, early September of 2020, the MRC worked with Receiver to develop an investor questionnaire and sent it to all 7 potential buyers who submitted letters of interest in purchasing or investing into the coastal resource facility. The questionnaire required prospective buyers to provide information such as their financial capabilities and how they propose to structure a deal. Come November, the receiver shares the final 3 potential buyer proposals with the MRC. Bondholder trustee explains to the MRC how they would like to proceed with their 3 proposals. The trustee also shares their picks from the first choice to the last. MRC schedules time to interview bidders and puts together a letter of intent, LOI, on how the MRC foresees the deal structured. It is narrowed down to 1 bidder and receivership ends. MRC's complete board of directors met with the potential buyer and their team. It is actually the same folks you're about to meet with now. Bondholder trustee and the MRC are now working directly with potential buyers through councils. Bondholders are moving forward with paying for the cost to winterize the plant while we deal with the progress. Winterization of the plant will ensure that equipment is protected from freezing up or damage. This will preserve everything and allow a quick restart when a deal has been completed. Where we are now. MRC received a memorandum of understanding, an MOU document. This document has sections binding between bondholders, MRC, and buyer. MRC addressed what we had put in the LOI into the MOU. The MOU also addresses, but not limited to, items such as what creditors are owed, expectations for winterizing of facility and timeline, permit requires of buyer and MRC, no change in the tip fee, MRC loan payback and reimbursement for costs occurred during the closure, contract assignment obligations and requirements within those assigned contracts. All three parties, buyer, MRC, and bondholders, signed the MOU on December 29th. With the MOU executed, some of the things MRC has done over the last few weeks to assist buyer in their due diligence are as follows. Over 100 letters on MRC letterhead have been sent out to coastal resource vendors stating a potential buyer will be contacting them very shortly for the purpose to discuss the current payable. MRC has scheduled meetings with some of the key players to take place this week, and some have already taken place with organizations to discuss the process of transferring permits and licenses. A list of previous coastal employees has been completed, and they have been spoken to who's still available to come back to work at the plant. The goal is to get as much legwork done now with any permitting, licensing, or staffing, so come a financial closing, we are not just starting this process. The buyer has been excellent to work with about getting this stuff prepared prior to a financial closing. Today, an asset purchase agreement draft is being worked on and will be provided to the MRC to look over in the next couple weeks and should be completed and signed sometime in February. With that document executed, a financial closing should occur within the first quarter of this year. That's what I have. That's what I have for the here and there to get everyone updated and current. I would like now to turn it over to Rob Van Naarden and his team to provide the MRC members with a presentation. I want to remind everybody, we will have a Q&A with Rob and his team, but this purchase is still in negotiations. So we may not be able to answer all your questions at this time. Thank you once again, everybody, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Van Naarden. Rob? Here we go. Rob, you're muted.
Is that better? Can you hear me now? Yes? Okay. So I'm Rob Van Naarden. I'm the CEO and founder of Delta Thermo Energy. And I would like to take you through some points about our company, what we plan on doing. We're very excited about this opportunity, not only to bring this facility back online, but also to do what is important for us, and that is work out a way to both environmentally and financially sound way of handling the waste and get all the communities, the 115, back online and making sure that nothing goes to a landfill or an incinerator going forward. I'm going to, if you'll allow me, I'm going to share my screen. I guess the host has to let me do that.
Okay, and I think Sophie's working on that now and bringing the rest of your team up.
I would appreciate that very much, and I'll introduce the team in a moment. So I'm trying to, oh, okay, I think I've got it. Okay. So
There we go.
I think that's good. I don't know why it's not.
I think you need to click on slideshow right at the top there on the menu bar, Rob.
Where's slideshow? I never, oh, let's try that. Okay. From the beginning. Okay. All right. So here we are. Hopefully, can everybody see that? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So before I tell you who we are, let me tell you of the people that are online with us, and although you may not be able to see them all. Our CFO, James Versaput, is on the line. I don't know if he can speak or not to say hello. We also have Zane Crowley online, who is our VP of Operations. We have Matthew Song, who's on the line, who is our technical lead and a member of our board of directors. And we have Brian Schaefer online, who is on the team that's responsible for managing all the waste coming in and also the sale of our of the product, in this case, the wet pulp, out. So both the in and the out part. And he'll be working closely with all the municipalities in the MRC. We are a US-based company located outside of Philadelphia. And our sole focus is on the clean processing of MSW. And we all know the problems there. I'm preaching to the choir here. We have developed a bunch of processing facilities overseas. And you can see there in Germany, Japan, South Korea, and a number of other countries. All of these facilities have been running approximately 11 plus years with great reliability and great functionality, meeting all the requirements that we set out for in the beginning. And of course, we want to bring that success to Hamden, Maine as well, and to the MRC members. Here are some pictures of some of these. I'll just point them out with my cursor. Hopefully you can see that. Can you see
I hate to interrupt, but I'm wondering if you might be able to get it so the slides fill the screen. Right now we're seeing both the current slide and the preview of the next slide. So it's not quite, so we can see the
Uh,
pictures a little better.
Let me see how I can do that.
Maybe up in display settings.
I know I see it in the full thing on mine.
Hmm.
So I'm a little screen. No, that's not it. I'm sorry.
All right.
I'll
Sorry,
just,
that's all right. I didn't mean to hold you up.
all right. Can you see my cursor moving around?
I can.
Okay. So this area here in the upper left-hand corner is just to depict what our architects have, if we were to start from scratch, the kind of facility that we would build. That's not the case in Hamden, but just to give you an idea of the comparison to a typical incinerator. There's no high stack or anything. This is our facility in Japan. This is called a hydrothermal decomposition unit. This is the facility also in South Korea. This is in South Korea as part of the wastewater treatment facility. This is the facility in Dresden, Germany, which is a paper plant actually used to make what we call egg crates, which you buy in the supermarket. They're the largest manufacturer of egg crates in Germany, all done with our system. They're completely off the grid. And this is also in Germany. So you get a sense of some of the facilities we have. We've had pilot testing facilities here in the United States for a number of years, mostly at the Atlantic County Utility Authority in Egg Harbor Township, New Jersey, which is right outside of Atlantic City. That is a fully integrated utility authority, meaning they have their own wastewater treatment plant, their own liquid nitrogen production facility, including pumping stations for all the jitneys in Atlantic City. They have their own composting center, their own landfill, their own transfer station, sorting center, et cetera, et cetera. And because of that, we were very fortunate to rent space in one of their buildings to build our facility, which ran very successfully for 3+ years, and it's now running in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. We've achieved permitting for waste, for taking in waste, for air, for water, for quality of runoff and all that stuff in Pennsylvania, New Jersey. And we anticipate no problems in Maine. And we've also done some work in Allentown, Pennsylvania. And here are some pictures of the sorted and shredded waste going in. This is a high performance boiler. This is our unit that transforms the waste into a fuel. This is a dryer, and this is the end fuel. It's really a powdered, dry fuel, and this is our wastewater treatment plant. We have a lot of experience on our team. A number of members of our team have been in the waste industry for 30+ years with these kind of companies, Covanta, Violi, and Waste Management. We also have a lot of experience with MRFs and just recycling programs as they would typically be around the northeast part of the country. We are committed to rehiring the current, or former, I should say, CRM facility workers, assuming they're still available and they meet our criteria. But we would love to have some experienced people that were already there, should we be able to do that. And we'll make sure that we go through every one of them. Why is this facility interesting to us? Well, it's two reasons. One, obviously, the building exists, the permits are there so that we can hopefully transfer them with DEP fairly easily. And the contract that exists between the MRC that we will acquire as part of the acquisition of the facility. Those are very important factors for us. What we're going to do next is obviously meet yourselves as well as some of the suppliers. We've been working through this huge list of payables that are outstanding to try to do the right thing with these business partners and so forth to make sure that they get paid. We plan on restarting the facility. My guess is that between now and 60 to 70 days from now, it'll take to close the financing and close on the acquisition. And within 4 to 6 weeks after that, we fully expect to be able to restart the facility as designed, meaning that I won't even mention the name, but the other company that put this technology in, we understand it, we've reviewed it, and we feel confident that we can get it restarted. May need some improvements and a minor improvements. Let's leave it that way. We will also assess the operations, because clearly we want to make this as profitable as possible for us. But rest assured that the tipping fees will not be changed. We'll honor the contract as is. And so hopefully you will see no disruption in how to do this. And then over time, we'll add some new services and new technology that I think will benefit all the municipalities serviced by this contract. Why will this be successful is probably something you're thinking about. In the end, I don't care what the technology is or what the opportunity is. Success always lies in experience and the people. We have an exceptional team of people. We have about 10 full-time employees, some of which I mentioned that are on the line here. And we also have a whole series of various outsourced companies we use for engineering, architecture, all kinds of things, and permitting. Although we, as much as possible going forward in Maine, we will use local companies for those kind of functions. We will have on-site management without question, 24/7 in the area, hopefully living in Hamden, but we'll see about that. And we have access to lots of capital, not only for closing the acquisition, but also for capital improvements, some of which will be needed immediately, some will come a little later. So I actually have already said this, but 30 to 60 days after closing, we'll get the plant operational again. I see nothing that will stand on our way to do that. 6 months thereafter, we'll look at some improvements that need to be made. I'll give you one example that we will do almost immediately upon acquisition. While we're working on getting the plant going, is we need to install either a bridge or overhead crane in the facility to better service all the equipment that's in there, and make it easier for the people that are working there. That's essential. We have to do that right away. And so we'll look for some technology improvements as well. And then maybe a year later, we'll start adding some services for the benefit of the members, while always keeping you informed. I would hope that as we move forward, that what I call, we've done it in other facilities, call a citizens advisory board. We would hope that we would have regular meetings, maybe monthly, with the MRC, with the municipalities, much like this, to give you an update on where we are. I think that's essential. You'll have questions. We'll hopefully have answers. And there's no question that we want to service this contract exactly as stated. And so the fact that I underlined this one thing, no change to the contract of the shipping fees, that's a given. There will be no financial impact on you other than what's in the contract. Longer term, we see other opportunities for diversion from landfills and incinerators to improve, the whole green environment. Everybody on our team, obviously, because we've worked in the waste industry, are environmentalists. We truly believe in this green movement, but landfills and incinerators are a no-no. They're not good. They're not a good option, and we don't want to be any part of it. I mentioned here sewage sludge. Each one of your municipalities either has their own or shares a wastewater treatment plant, and the output of a wastewater treatment plant is typically a sewage sludge component, which most landfills in the country don't want to take. In fact, as we speak here today, there are barges that are moving from New York City south outside the 12-mile limit. So they put them in international waters. All they do is carry sewage sludge from New York City. It used to go to Louisiana. Believe it or not, they have to travel all the way south to Louisiana to a landfill down there. But recently, a couple of months ago, they refused to take it. And so they're looking for other places. We eliminate that need, and we'll get to that later on. we believe that we have a solution for a long-term environmentally sound disposal of MSW, and we plan on providing that technology over time to the facility, along with the current pulp manufacturer, the wet pulp manufacturing, which can be sold, I guess, to a number of companies. And there's a customer, I believe, in Canada for that right now, which we'll also try to revitalize. So with that, I would love to entertain any questions, either financial, technical, whatever you like. We are an open book. And would really look forward to lots of engagement with local citizens as well as the members of the MRC.
So, Rob, why don't you take your, if you don't mind, take your screen down now, and then we'll put the people. There you go.
Okay.
We can go.
Rob, thank you so much. That was a great presentation. We hope our attendees appreciated it as well. I wanted to remind folks that if you're interested in asking a question of Rob or anyone on his team or anyone at MRC, you can raise your hand, and Sophie will magically empower you. I think I see at least one raised hand. We're also taking questions live on Facebook, so if you can enter a question there if you're participating that way. Mr. Banks, I
Karen?
believe.
Oh,
yeah.
sorry, Karen. We are not taking, I'm not looking at comments. If somebody else is, I don't have Facebook up. I have all I can manage right here. So
Okay.
we're streaming on Facebook with a message that if they wanted to participate, they needed to join the Zoom meeting. And this
Oh,
is
okay.
John Banks, who does have permission to speak.
Okay, very good.
Oh,
Mr.
thank
Banks.
you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we
Oh,
can.
okay. Yeah, thanks for that great presentation, Rob. That was very informative. I was pretty excited at the beginning of it when you mentioned that one of your operating principles is no landfilling and no incineration. I was a little less excited toward the end of the presentation when you put that in the category of a long-term goal. So I'm wondering if you could just talk a little bit more about how you plan to get there as one of the long-term goals. Thank you.
John, thanks for asking that question. I probably misstated that. It is an immediate goal for me. I don't like landfills and I don't like incinerators. I think they're bad for the environment, and they're certainly bad economically. John, let me correct that if I said it incorrectly. From day one, we will try to do everything in our power to eliminate anything going to an incinerator or a landfill. Longer term, we continue to maintain that. I think you know that longer term we have our own technology, which we may put in at some point in time, but that's down the road. We got to get this facility operating as is ASAP. Does that answer you, John?
Well, kind of. I appreciate it, but I'm kind of looking more for some more concrete, specific actions that you're looking to take to get you to the goal of no incineration and no land. If that information's available and okay for public consumption.
Well, I want you to know, maybe this will make you feel more comfortable, John, is that the facilities I showed you overseas, none of the output goes to a landfill or an incinerator at all. In fact, you should know that the facilities in Japan doesn't have any landfills. And although they do have a couple of incinerators, it's an island. They can't go dump it over in the ocean. That's illegal. So they have very, very advanced, what you and I would call an incinerator, you would not even notice in Japan. They look like office buildings and they don't pollute. So I can tell you categorically that the Japanese standards and the German standards are the toughest in the world. They are far tougher than anything EPA or local DEPs can come up with. And we beat the standards on all those, whether it's air pollution, water pollution, whatever. And none of them use landfills or incinerators. So we anticipate adopting that same style of operation and have every intent to live by that. It's important. I'm an environmentalist. I even drive an electric car.
Thank you.
You know, I just want to take a minute to add that, you know what, the goal is to start the operation up as is right now, and just to make sure, because everything that we're diverting and get back to our normal numbers of over 50% is being diverted. And, you know, down the road, Rob will be adding, you know, to increase those numbers and make those numbers better. But I want to just reiterate that, you know, the incinerator currently, because of the situation we're at, has been important to us and been a big partner with us while also has closed, you know, to keep this stuff out of landfill. So we'd much rather not see it go into landfill. And, but PERC has been a big part to help us out with this. And I think that when Delta comes in, they'll be starting as is and then making those numbers better over time.
Correct.
Karen, we have Sam Rogers who is able to speak. Sam should be able to speak.
Great.
Yeah, I'm here. I hope you guys can hear me.
Yeah.
I definitely probably missed this in the beginning, but you know, Mike or Rob, if you don't mind just talking about the partnership. You know, obviously there was some other applicants here, potential buyers. If you don't mind, Rob, first with you, you know, why did you want to bring, you know, your company here to Maine? And again, I apologize if this was already addressed earlier.
Sam, we did address it earlier. For us, look, Maine is a reasonably rural state where people are very concerned about the environment. That is very appealing to us. But more importantly, the facility already exists, the building is there, and the contract with the 115 municipalities is in place. That's what we're acquiring. And that saves us a ton of time and makes sure that the initial focus and the immediate focus is to restart the facility as it was designed, which we understand at this point and feel confident that we can get it going within 4 to 6 weeks. Does that answer your question, Sam?
Yes, thank you. And again, Mike, maybe this is a good question for you, but obviously when the facility shut down, the waste was being relocated to PERC and landfills. And is a similar kind of contingency plan in place now? Or what would be, you know, if an event does happen where the facility cannot be receiving waste, what's kind of backup plan?
I can, let me, if I may, Mike, every facility that processes waste has to have contingency plans.
Yes.
For a whole variety of reasons. Most important, yes, something could happen and the facility goes down for whatever reason, or goes to 50% capacity. You know, these things happen, but more importantly, it happens when you need to do preventative maintenance on an ongoing basis. If preventative maintenance is done right, it's done throughout the year without effect to the operations. But we all know that certain times there are pieces of equipment that need longer maintenance than we would like. And so we have to have diversion contracts in place, both with haulers, with landfills, and with incinerators to be a backup just in case. It's a contingency. Every facility requires it. We would be no different.
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you both. I appreciate it.
So Karen, we have a question from Charlie Eicher, and I mispronounced his last name. I apologize for that. But it is, what role may Fiberite play when Delta buys and reopens it?
Do you want me to take that one, Rob?
If you'd like, sure.
Yeah. So we're in the process of the due diligence, And with that hasn't all been figured out yet. Rob's team's been going through the facility and looking, the facility's broken up into different parts, your front end and your wet end. So this is just an early process, and not everything or all the logistics have been worked out at this point.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, he says it does.
Okay.
Any other questions from anyone out there? You can raise your hand. Got one. Oh, Sam Rogers has another question. Sam, I believe you're with one of the news channels. Hopefully we'll see if he comes back in. There he is.
Yep, sorry, completely forgot to ask this earlier. I'm with News Center Maine, but the last thing I wanted to ask, job-wise, I know you mentioned, Rob, about potentially bringing some other facility workers back. How many jobs in total will this plant create here for Mainers?
Very good question, Sam. I don't have a complete count. Mike would know better what the total count was when it first operated. I anticipate there are two phases how I look at it. How much manpower is needed to get the thing up and running, and then how many full-time equivalents or FTEs is required to run the facility on an ongoing basis. In the beginning, I think we're going to probably have to have on a manufacturing, meaning putting the pieces back together, changing some layouts, adding a little bit of equipment, like I mentioned, that crane. That probably is going to take about 30, 35 people. And then long-term on FTE basis, it all depends on how we run the facility. Zane, who's on the line here, could probably answer that better. But my guess is it will depend on whether we do 12-hour or 8-hour shifts, whether we run 3 shifts a day or 2 shifts a day, depending on how we rotate the people. And a lot of that has to do with the desires of the people that we hire in the plant. Some areas people like to work 12-hour days for 4 days, other like 8-hour days for 5 days. It all depends. But I think total to run the facility as is and with the potential improvements is probably around 30 people, 32 people. FTEs, full-time equivalents.
And Rob, just to be clear, that's only for one shift. As you add more shifts, that would increase, correct?
Oh yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
By the way, if there's any question, we plan on running this facility 24/7, 365. With out of that 365, we plan on, correct me if I'm wrong, Zane, but I believe there's 15 to 20 days that are set aside for maintenance. And that doesn't mean you shut down for a day. It means it's the equivalent of 20 days over the course of a whole year.
All right. We have a couple questions that came in through the chat, and then we also have somebody who's raised their hand. I'll start with the ones in the chat. Question from Cheryl Robertson. I'm wondering about the municipal contracts and the ban on starting community composting projects. If new technology is down the road, will we be able to re-up? I'm assuming that means re-up or restart composting programs, perhaps. So I don't, yeah.
So I've been getting a lot of those. What I've been asked is composting programs where they're adding bins to transfer station stuff. The first thing I look at is that we made a commitment to this plant on the tonnage of MSW to provide it. And if the compost was already in that MSW and that's part of their commitment, then we still need those tonnages to go to this plant to meet that commitment. And that's how it will be financially successful, and composting are heavy. So that's how that's something we're going to have to look at. If people are way over on their tonnages, and then that's something that can be looked at. But you got to remember, we've made a total tonnage commitment to this plant so that it would be successful.
Did you have something you wanted to add, George?
Yeah, just that, the joint agreement does, and the master waste supplies agreement do address this. I mean, there's some flexibility within the language. We don't know the exact circumstances of operation going forward. Some of that we're going to learn as we go, but there is flexibility to be responsive. So I know it sounds like an unresponsive answer, but all I can say is we've heard the concern. There's a way to address it within the contract, and we'll do our best to address it. We know that there's interest in those programs, and we'll see what we can do to accommodate it as we go forward and see, what the details look like.
Great. Thanks for that point, George. I'll do one more question from the chat, and then we'll go to a couple of the raised hands. We have a question from Carrie Donovan. Some towns have arrangements to send single sort recyclables to the plant for a reduced tip fee. Will that continue? And I don't know if Mike or Rob is able to address that one yet.
Could you repeat the question again, please?
So this is a question about the separate single stream recycling contracts. I believe a handful of towns that had separate single stream recycling contracts with Coastal Resources. Our joinder agreement specify that goes in at a reduced tip fee, not more than 50% of the tip fee for MSW. And I guess, I don't know if Mike or George has an answer to that, because I think it's a little TBD.
My understanding is, so Rob, it's not much at all. There is a handful of our members out there that, will sort out their newspapers and that type of thing. Coastal, part of our agreement is that if they sort their recycling and then the tip rate is half of what the current MSW rate is, and that's what we have in our agreements. Coastal seemed very beneficial. Coastal, they were able to run that separately, speed everything up. And of course, most of that was your field commodities and that type of thing that had the higher. And where we're assigning the contracts, I believe it does state right in the contract that offer to the member that they have this at half the tip rate. So I don't think it's going to be a big issue that you're going to have to deal with, and there's not that many of it. And there is advantage to get it in this sort of recycle, like I said, because they could turn everything and run it a lot quicker.
All right, we'll look at it.
So we're running low on time. I wanted to give the person who had their hand raised a chance to ask their question, and then I was going to quickly go through the questions in the chat and try to knock them off so that we can wrap up here within the next 5 minutes so we can get into our Finance Committee meeting. So Sophie, if you could bring Meredith in, I think she's been waiting for a little while. Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so Carrie Donovan actually asked my question about the recyclables, but did it end up being that we're not sure if it's going to be 50% of the tipping? I mean, is the price not yet determined what would be charged for single sort recyclables?
And Meredith, I don't believe during the due diligence process we have gotten there yet. We're unsure if this is going to be something that is assigned as part of the contract or not. So we're just not there yet.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This was I've really enjoyed listening to you, Rob.
Thank you. My pleasure.
All right, I'm going to quickly go through a few of the questions in the chat here so we can wrap up. There was a follow-up question from Charlie iHacker from the BDN wanting to know whether Delta Thermo would have a local manager on site in contact there for day-to-day operations of the plant. And I believe that is a yes, Rob, if that's correct.
Absolutely correct.
Great. Let's see, we have a question about extracting glass. I think we'll address that later on down the process later on, not at this meeting.
Karen, just to be clear, it's a very simple answer. Yes, we do extract glass.
Okay.
And we sell
then
it to
the question is it recycled or repurposed?
recycled.
Okay, thank you. There's a question about returning or rehiring employees. Is that going to include anybody from the previous administration? Not quite sure exactly what they might be referring to, but
I don't know the distinction between that you're trying to make between administration and people that are on the ground in the plant working. Our view is we have our own administration, but the people on the ground working at various levels in the plant, those are the people we're looking at to rehire.
thank you. And somebody's trying to get a little sense of the Delta Thermo operations. And they want to know if they're understanding the process correctly, that the first stage is recycling extraction and the second stage is organics extraction in sort of a overall conceptual.
Probably Zane should answer that better than I do. Zane, are you listening to this? Do you hear this?
Yes, I do hear it. That's the way it's set up right now, with the front end being the separation and the back end, the wet end, the organics, and the production of the methane. The actual capture of the methane gas so that it can be usable either for sale or for use within the plant. That's one of the very first options we're going to look at.
Thank you, Zane.
Yes, thank you. All right, I'm gonna let the last question be asked, and with that, after this, we'll wrap it up. So Gabe Govan, I believe you're on.
Yeah, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, fantastic. Hi. So I just had a question. You've expressed a few times here that the first initial goal is to get everything up and running and operating as designed, which is
Correct.
a great first step. However, historically, this facility has had some issues with permitting from DEP, as far as just taking a little time. Have you had any sort of assurances from the state that these would carry over to the new operators? Just a concern as far as, startup.
I can take that one, Rob.
Okay.
MRC is listed on the current permits, or most of the permits. We've already met with DEP. We've already done an introduction with DEP, and we've been assured that as long as the vetting process goes fine on financial capabilities in operations, which we don't see an issue with Delta Thermo, then the permits will be transferable and they will happen in a timely manner. They should be available if we get working on them at closing or close to the closing date, as long as we start on them quickly, which the process has already started.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Mike. With that, I think we have reached our time limit here. Rob, would you like to make a closing statement?
Okay, thank you so much, Karen.
Welcome.
Just to follow up on what Gabe asked about the DEP, I can tell you categorically, and this makes me feel very good about this whole process. Mike and the MRC management team, or board of directors, I should say, have been incredibly cooperative with us. And it is through their leadership that we've been able to talk to DEP, and we're going to be talking this week to the water department and a whole bunch of other people, the town of Hamden. And so I feel very confident that this will all go reasonably smoothly. There are always hiccups, but we're all grown people. We know how to handle those. And I just want to thank everybody for the opportunity to present to you. And I look forward to a long-lasting, mutually beneficial relationship. Thank you.
Well, I will echo those sentiments, Rob. We're very pleased with how things are progressing, and we've enjoyed working with you so far and look forward to continuing to do so through the close and into the future, into a long and profitable future for all of us. So,
exactly.
Mike, is there anything you'd like to say to wrap it up?
No, I just want to, like I said, I want to thank everybody for their patience. We are doing everything we can in the background, trying to assist in any way we can with the due diligence. So things are happening in a timely manner. And once again, I can't stress, I don't think we would have gotten this far without the 115 voices that we have behind us. So I appreciate everything everybody's doing. And I really want to thank the board for all their help that they've been giving me with as I get a little bit in underwater, and especially George and Jonathan as our consultants and our legal.
Yes, definitely assured, and to you too, Mike, who does not know the meaning of the word holiday, as you work 24/7 to make sure this comes through to fruition. So our members appreciate that and appreciate all those efforts. So with that, I'd like to just, for folks that are left on, to remind people that I think it is next week, next Wednesday, January 27th, we have a regular quarterly board meeting of the MRC. And we'll be providing further updates at that time. You're always welcome to participate. That too will be via Zoom and live streamed on Facebook. And with that, I think we'll move into our Finance Committee meeting, which will become a slightly different animal. Sophie is going to guide us through that.
So my plan, Madam President, is to stop the Facebook live feed because we don't normally live feed committee meetings.
Sounds good.
And to ask people to take a 5-minute break unless you'd like to co-host the first part of the meeting because I have something I need to take care of. And then we can come back. Finance Committee members will pop back up on the screen. Jonathan, you're not joining us for this one, are you?
No, I don't typically join finance committee meetings.
Yeah,
unless you
that
would like
makes me
there.
happy. No, I'm good.
You can as a
So
citizen.
does that work for you? As
Yeah,
far
that
as the
sounds
plan?
good. 5-minute break sounds great.
All right, so let me get people up and we'll take a break.
And it will be the same link. We just stay on and can mute ourselves.
Yep.
And okay,
Yep.
sounds great.
All right, take care.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
Like magic, Sophie.
You're talented, Sophie. A multitasker.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you only knew.
I can imagine.
I'm also gonna stop recording. Is that all right? Because we don't normally record committee meetings.